This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
Welcome to Straight No Chaser. So grab a glass and join your hosts, your girl Ann BZ, Thin Bad, and the Chief.
Hey guys, good evening and welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we are always talking about the greatest, hardest issues and we never serve the soft stuff. What is tonight's subject? Tonight's subject is this topic that has been going around about college students, college athletes, getting paid for their talents. I personally love this subject because I'm friends with a lot of student athletes and I definitely think that they work hard. They are given just as much publicity as professional athletes. They are basically professional athletes. I mean, you should see the promo and time and money that goes into college athletics, and I'm excited to talk about this, honestly.
Well, that's good. Good evening, Ann BZ. How are you this evening?
Pretty good.
Okay. Well, like you said, tonight we're going to talk about college athletes and whether or not they should be paid. And certainly we invite our audience to chat with us. And also, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call on our new number, 702-425-4713. That's 702-425-4713. And we will be glad to hear from you and even get you on the air so you can express your thoughts. And, of course, as always, feel free to text or feel free to chat, and we will get your comments on the air. So, Ann BZ, I'm going to go ahead and let you start on this because this has certainly been an issue that has been plaguing people for years. Do we pay them or don't we pay them?
I think you should.
Why?
Well, because for a lot of these athletes, college is their peak. Not every college athlete that makes it to college makes it to a higher level. Not every college basketball player makes it to the NBA. Not every college football player, especially football. Not every college football player makes it to the NFL. So these kids dedicate their whole lives to play this sport, and then they finally get to college. And in college, they expect that sport to be your life. They really kind of coast you through classes, and your focus for being in college is that sport, which means that if they don't make it to the league or if they don't make it to the next level, what skills do you really have? Not only that, but so many people are trying to play at their peak performance in college that some of them get injured and they can't make it to the next level, and there are all kind of things that happen. I mean, you see people who are top of the top in certain positions in college, but they can't make it professionally because they get injured or it's just more selective. So they might be the top of their school, but once they get to that professional level, they're not necessarily there. But you also have to look at what these athletes are doing for their school. I mean, Duke, do you see how much their basketball program pulls money-wise, support-wise? Like, that's huge. It's the same thing with USC, same thing with UCLA, same thing with a lot of big schools. Their sports programs bring in the most money, but yet the players see these little stipends. And a lot of these players are on ESPN, on Nike ads, Adidas, Under Armour, but they don't get the endorsement money like they would on a professional level when it's the same exposure. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that they should get paid, period. I think they work just as hard as professional players. And it's almost like they get to be exploited to bring money in for the school for free. That's not cool.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a minute, because I certainly get it. I know a lot of these guys, they're shooting the basketball, running the football down the field, and they're doing all kinds of amazing things. But why should they reap more rewards than John or Jane Q student who is studying hard, getting A's in their physics and doing all kinds of things? And, when you look at the brochures, for example, and let's say it's a brochure from Harvard, then you have one from Virginia Union and one from UCLA, and they promote, this is our school. It's so diverse. We offer all these programs and all these things. What they are appealing to the masses is come and get that rewarding educational situation, as opposed to come watch Johnny Watt dunk the basketball. Now, I'll give it to you that, yes, people like Duke because they know Duke has a great basketball team. There's no question about that. But do you think that kind of sends the wrong message to those kids that are really there? They had to struggle through the SAT prep, the PSAT, LSAT, or whatever acronym they had to take to get into the doggone school.
But they're going to feel that way regardless.
Well,
they're going to feel that way whether they get paid or not. I mean, people already feel that way. Like, oh, I had to take the athletes still have to take their SATs and stuff, but I just think that there is a different level of sacrifice that student athletes go through. They sacrifice a lot of their childhood, a lot of their lives. Like, a lot of my friends who play professional basketball now, or football, they spent a lot of their time doing that sport. While all of us were out going to the movies, they were meeting up with their coaches. While a lot of us were, ready to getting ready for prom. Like, of course they went to prom and stuff, but they didn't really have the same life. They eat and breathe that sport. And so for that not to pay off, or like for you to go to college with the hopes that you'll make it all the way and then that not pay off, but your face has been all over Nike for you not to get a dime, is not setting right with me, period.
Well, but what about those kids who wanted to get into Duke or Harvard or Howard, and they spent every summer at an SAT prep class or a chemistry camp or a biology whiz camp and all those other things, and just so they could get into Harvard or Howard or Morehouse or Spelman, they too sacrificed.
That is
Same
true.
thing.
But that has nothing to do with the players getting paid, because they don't get paid now, and that's still a thing, That, I guess that's my point. It's like, regardless of if they get paid or not, those students are always going to be mad. That's one of those things that you're going to have to just charge to the game, because it's like those athletic programs bring in the most money at most schools. So, of course, they're going to make sure that they have their athletes. They're going to make sure that they have their money makers. That's just, universities are businesses at the end of the day. We all don't get into every school that we apply to. They'll be fine. They'll be okay. It sucks, but it's just like every athlete doesn't get to play at their top school. There are people who grew up thinking that they're going to play at Duke their whole lives, and they end up having to go D2. I just think that regardless of if you play sports or if you don't, you always risk that unfair advantage. Because let's look at the opposite. There could be a kid who had dreams of going to play basketball at UCLA their whole life, right? And they don't get in because some kid whose parents is donating $1 million to the school says, put my kid on the basketball team. Oh, wait, that did happen at USC. You know, they had kids on that basketball team and on that row team that never even played in volleyball, that never even played the sports, but they got to be on the team because their parents were shelling out money. Now, I just think that that's a different conversation for another time. But right now, we're talking about student athletes getting paid. And I don't think that has anything to do with the admissions process. I think that if somebody, that's just like you volunteering. I don't know how to let me think of a good example.
Yeah, break that down for me.
That's just like you being the face of a brand.
Okay.
Like, let's just say you're wearing a Levi's shirt, right?
Okay.
And Levi's hires you as an extra to be on their commercial, right? Since you're an extra, you don't get paid as much as the lead actors, right? But once the Levi's commercial takes off, for some reason, you're the star. You're the reason why people are buying Levi's, but yet the lead actors are the ones getting the money. How would you feel?
Well,
if your face was on a brand, right? And people were making money because of you, but you didn't see any of that money. Instead, other people were getting that money just because they played in a higher league. How would you feel?
Well, the majority of the schools, they actually brand themselves on the standings in the collegiate magazines based on their academic prowess. So, yes, they do have some schools. You know, your Nebraskas, UCLA, USC, Duke, North Carolina, those schools that have, you know, great ball programs, or your schools that have good football programs and other sports or swimming or whatever. They certainly, that is known. But when you look at the brochures, they're talking about all these amazing admission standards. You know, you have to have a 9 million on your SATs. You have to have straight A's for the last 30 years. You could have never sucked your thumb in kindergarten. All these things. And that's how we're going to admit you. You don't see that in the brochures that they send out.
Okay, but in the brochures,
we're looking for good athetes.
But in the brochures, you also don't see that that's where they're getting most of their money from. I mean, there's a lot of things you don't see when it comes to universities. That's just like how they throw black people on the brochures talking about it's diverse, and those are the only black people at the whole school. That's how they get people. Well, that's how they get people, period.
Well,
it's a business.
I think that how they are getting people through the door is advertising the academics. Now, let me throw something at you. We're already getting chat messages, and Gina says that, and I want to throw something at you from Gina from the Atlanta area. She says, let me be a devil's advocate. Free tuition is a form of pay. What do you think about that, Ambeezy?
True, but the problem with that is you're getting free tuition in the hopes that you get the degree that they're being paid for. Most of these athletes are being encouraged to go to a higher level before they can even get their degree. So what are they really gaining? Because let's say somebody decides to go into the NBA draft, but they don't make it, they've then lost their scholarship. They can't go back to the school and still have that scholarship. So I don't think that's valid, because a lot of the athletes, they get those scholarships so that they can go there and play for free. But if you don't get the degree that you're quote unquote paying for, what was the point?
Well, I'm trying to put this in the appropriate perspective. I think that there are folks who have gotten to school and they've played sports and they haven't been successful. I'll give you that. I'll give you. Oh, there's Thin Bad. He's
No.
hello, Thin.